But here we are. Good morning. Good morning. Gareth A. Davies is back. We are back together. Gareth, how have you been and where have you been? I haven't seen you for ages.
Yeah, I've had a week off. I had a biking accident. My eye's fine now. I cut my eye and had to go to A&E, but I'm back and rocking and ready to go. But it's not like I haven't been watching the boxing, but just had a little quiet 10 days away from the sport and not traveling too much. But I am better now. Thank you very much.
Gareth, how did that happen, if you don't mind me asking? Because I know you like a proper biker.
Fell over on my bicycle.
Oh, it was on the bicycle.
Yeah, I hit my head on the curb. Yeah.
Dear God, Gareth.
Well,
But you're all right now.
The pictures, they weren't very nice.
You poor thing. Well, I'm glad you're on the mend.
Yeah, no, I'm better. Thank you.
Okay. But you have been watching the boxing.
Of course.
So, Gareth, what are the hot topics for you at the moment in the boxing?
I think Virgil Ortiz is a guy we should be taking more notice of. William Zepeda has come through and is looking like a potential opponent for a lot of those lightweight guys, particularly Shaka Stevenson. Maybe even Tank Davis matches up very well with him. Jaron Ennis was always going to have a lot of success under Eddie Hearn. Now he's pushing a Terence Crawford fight, although I think he's going to have to wait for Crawford to obviously fight Israel Madrimov in Los Angeles in early August, but also the Canelo fight is being worked on with Crawford.
Oh, is that true then? I thought it was just a little bit of...
Will happen. That fight will happen, no doubt.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I am waiting to have a catch up with Ben Shalom. It should have happened last week, but we're scheduled to catch up this week. So that'll definitely be something that I'll be talking to him about. Because when I spoke to Eddie, I think he said that Frank Smith had spoken to, obviously, Eubank Jr., and he was saying he wanted 2 gimme fights, but Matchroom were only prepared to give him 1. So obviously explored his options and obviously got the partnership deal with Boxer. What are your thoughts on that, Gareth, when it comes to like the
association? So you're obviously alluding to the fact that I think Terence Crawford and Canelo will happen early next year, first third of next year.
Right.
But in the meantime, it does look possible, as you're alluding to, that Chris Eubank Jr. may end up facing Saul Canelo Alvarez. It's great. I think it's the 9th British fighter that he'll have fought. You go down the list, starting with Ryan Rhodes and Matthew Hatton all those years ago, and all the way through that kind of panoply of British fighters. But yeah, I think they are being lined up. I mean, there's reason, you can see the reason now that Chris Eubank Jr. didn't take the fight against Hamza Shiraz, which is a very difficult fight for him, which Liam Smith is chasing now if he can beat Josh Kelly. So there's a lot happening. I mean, the last time I crossed swords with you was, I think, probably the September 21st press conference in London, which was a big event that day, or a couple of days, in fact. And there was the second day, there was a briefing, an off-the-record briefing with His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, in which he outlined a lot of the things that he was wanting to do at the moment. All good, all involving governance of the sport and different fighters. And I won't go into the details because they're off the record, but they were all good things for the sport. There were a lot of us there. That September 21st card is fantastic.
Yeah.
I've had my head deep in doing a book that I'm finishing at the moment.
Talk to us about that, Gareth.
No, it's just a series of essays on fighters and promoters of this era. Nearly finished now. That's why I've been hidden away as well. Called Call of the Warrior. Big coffee table book with a photographer, Sonia Jasinski. We've been working on it for 5 years.
Wow.
Big book, 250 odd pages, a lot of photographs, and a lot of boxers from this era, and trainers and promoters. Kind of a significant book in terms of looking at why people fight, why they fight, what's inside.
The psychology side of it.
Yeah, I mean, but just maybe more the spiritual side of it. It's I've written them all in a different way based on my experiences of the different people, and not always about their fights in the ring, but about how they are as people and why they do it. One of the reasons why we're fascinated as human beings by the struggle, the stories of redemption, all those things that they go through, that we get to witness, and that perhaps this book's a little bit more for the slightly, because it's a coffee table book. It's for people that don't necessarily know about boxing, and just see it as raw and visceral and brutal. Just that there's a completely different side to all these fighters and these characters and the circus, if you like, the Wild West that we inhabit a lot and we're around. That there's if you open the curtains on it, it's a very different world to what you'd imagine.
I'm looking forward to that. Have you any release date? What's happening with it, or is it still a continuation?
He'll be ready for Christmas.
Can I have a signed copy then? Obviously, I'll pay for it, but
yeah. So you're gonna get your better half a signed copy for Christmas.
I'll get me a signed copy for Christmas.
Okay.
If you was writing a book on Formula One, then that would be for the better half.
Oh,
He'd be
really?
interested in that, but I'm the one that's primarily interested in boxing.
Yeah, but you could always buy it for him and then just
like me to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you to me present. I like the sound of that, and I'm glad that somebody's actually invested. I mean, 5 years is a good period of time, but there's been so much of a change
Oh, that's what I
during the
write.
last 5 years, so it's critical. So there's going to be periods in that book where it's almost you can see that pivotal change, and I'd say it's going to be over those 5 years, and especially like now with all the different investments that we're having in boxing. That'll be
Yeah.
a really interesting read because the mentality of the boxers is inherently going to change with the times.
In
It's not
5
just
years.
about winning anymore, is it, Gareth? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. If you look at the last 5 years have been a dramatic change in the world as well, with social media and the COVID
Yes.
pandemic lockdown, the war in Ukraine, the Russian invasions of Ukraine, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and there's a couple of Ukrainians in the book anyway, and the world, and boxing's changed so much as well, even in the last year. So, it does, and boxers' lives change over 5 years. Look how
Yes.
Tyson Fury's life has changed in 5 years. Look how Alexander Usyk life has changed. Look how Anthony Joshua's life has changed. So there's I just delve into my meandering experience of people and fighters, and there's even a couple of YouTubers in there, KSI and the Paul brothers, because they changed something in the sport as well. That was another shift. So in the last 5 years, you've got all these different things going on, but it's just told through essays on these fighters about their lives.
Yep.
And about why they're involved in boxing and my experiences of them, really. And with lovely, it's all black and white photography as well. So it's I'm nearly there. It's another reason why I haven't been around too much as well. But even though I was recovering from that injury.
Yeah, but it's still, like I said, this is a book that could literally go on for 20 years, isn't it? You're going to have to draw a line somewhere. So, but I do look forward
There's going
to
to be
seeing.
volume 2 at some point, because,
Yeah,
like you say, there's
errors, isn't there?
well, it's just they're definitely eras. No, this is definitely an era. And I've chosen a couple of guys in the book from another era as well, who are still around in the sport. So, yeah, it's been a labour of love, a lot of work, and it's my first book because I haven't done a book, and I'm glad I'm doing it in this form, in a coffee table book with lots of photographs, brilliant photographs, to be honest. Yes, it's been a lot of fun. It's a slog right now.
Would you say that this is kind of like the height of your journalistic experience then? Because you're a journalist, you write, you've always written, you do the interviews as well, but your true craft is in writing is in gathering that information from
No,
the
the
fight.
true craft is being me in the fight world. That's how I see it. I don't see it as one thing.
Yeah,
Um, I do as much broad. But again, how we cover the sport has changed as
true.
well. Um, so I mean, I do as much broadcasting as I do writing now. So if not more, some weeks. So it's just fluid. The whole world's changed. Everything we do, the way we do everything has changed. The
Yeah,
dominance of these things is everywhere. The 6 years ago you couldn't do what you do right now and get anywhere with it, because there weren't that number of people around. It wasn't a source of news. It wasn't. And now videography news is a source of news in lots of different niches. It wasn't available as a well, probably wasn't even available 3 years ago.
yeah. I'd say in the last 5 years it's come on.
Five
That's why I
years.
said
There you go.
it's
5 years.
pivotal that you've been covering this for 5 years because it's covering an era.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it'll change again, and it'll change again in another 5 years. And that's just the way of the world. The way people treat each other has changed. The way the service industry has changed. The way we accept things or don't accept things has changed. The way we have to talk about things has changed.
True.
And then that is, everything's in constant shift anyway. No questions this morning. Look, um, everything's in flux, and you just got to kind of navigate your way through it. And one of the things that I did do at the beginning of the book, I made a list of fighters,
Yeah.
and it's amazing what happened. How like Josh Taylor is in there, and if I'd written it about Josh Taylor 2.5 years ago, I think
Oh,
it's very different to what he is now. So I'm trying to ignore blips. People have losses. People have purple patches. People have times when everything's going for them. And then certainly as fighters, age catches up with people. Some go on too long. There's a lot of different things that happen for fighters. And it's not a long career.
nope.
It's not a long life either in the context of things. So no, it's a celebration. It's the call of the warrior. It's what's in people's DNA. It's why they choose to fight.
I am really looking forward to that. Good sales pitch, but I'm
I'm
genuinely
not
looking
even
forward
trying to
to it.
sell it either.
You don't need to. You're just a natural salesman, aren't you, Gareth? Gareth,
Mhm.
I need your opinions now.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
got to go to opinions.
yeah. Go on.
We've sort of like covered a little bit about Chris Eubank Jr.
Yeah,
Um, I've got to talk to you about September the 21st,
yeah,
Wembley. The last time, like I said, we were ships at night passing.
yeah. I didn't
Talk
even
to
know
me
you
about
were there. I didn't even know you were there.
Yeah, I get about, but you know that already, don't you? Anyway, Daniel Dubois, Anthony Joshua, or Joshua versus Dubois. Dubois got the
Yeah.
belt, but poster's different. Talk to us about that, Gareth.
Well, I do think that Anthony Joshua is a big favourite for me in this fight. He's what he's achieved, the way he's come back has been formidable. Obviously, there are question marks about who he's come back against in the last 2 or 3 fights. The Ngannou fight, the Otto
That's
Wallin.
what Frank Warren said. To be fair, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you've got to look at. To be fair to Daniel Dubois in this matchup, and Daniel Dubois has really come on in the last year after his loss to Alexander Usyk. But if you look stylistically at what they both are, I think Joshua has achieved so much more. He's in a great place in his career. He's a destructive fighter. And I do think he's going to stop Daniel Dubois and knock him out. And I think it'll happen before the 7th round. And that's just how I see the fight from here. I think I see him as a big favourite. I see Daniel Dubois as a big underdog. And I may be wrong on this, but I just see Daniel Dubois getting knocked out by Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, well, you're not alone in that. I think many people have got Anthony Joshua down as the favourite. I spoke with the lovely Peter Fury the other day, and he said, look, at the end of the day, styles make fights, but you've got to look at the experience of Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know that Daniel Dubois has got that punch power as well, but when you go up against such, good experience, potentially, obviously, Anthony Joshua's down as like the favourite, as it were. The only thing that I thought is if he won't be able to take those shots on the chin that Hergovich gave him, because I just think Anthony Joshua hits a lot harder, and he's got those accumulative punches. He doesn't just hit you with one; he hits you with several. And if he comes in with those, it could be an early night, Gareth.
Joshua's a proven finisher. And I think, I've always said this, is as good a finisher when he's got someone hurt as Lennox Lewis was. And the more I think about the heavyweight division, the more Lennox Lewis deserves to be right up there as one of the greatest, if not one of the greatest heavyweights ever. I think Daniel Dubois has the potential to force mistakes from Anthony Joshua. He has the potential to upset what Joshua can do, but I just think they'll have a very strict game plan. Ben Davies and Lee Wiley seem to be almost like savants in knowing those kind of tiny little minutiae, the movements of minutiae that the opponents are going to bring for them. And I just think Joshua will have a strong game plan. I like where he is mentally at the moment. I like how he handled Daniel Dubois on the day. There was a lot of aggression knocking around that day, actually.
What was it like being there, Gareth? Because you was actually there around that. Obviously, I'm outside. I'm watching it from the home, but
I liked the way Anthony Joshua was. I liked the way he talked about it. I liked the way he said, I wasn't calling him up for having a fight. I think Daniel Dubois was trying it on with him. He was very tired, by the way, on the day Daniel Dubois just flown in from holiday in Brazil.
Brazil.
Joshua wasn't having it, and I think I like that version of Anthony Joshua. I like the one who is sitting there saying, "I'm glad Tyson Fury isn't the undisputed champion. He's an idiot." Putting it out there in that way, being very frank about things. I like the fact that he said, I'm not having it from Daniel Dubois. He knows he's the A side, even though he hasn't got the belt, even though he hasn't got the IBF belt. And I think that Anthony Joshua that knows his own mind, that knows what he's doing, that is full of confidence, is a very dangerous fighter. And as we've seen, he did go through a period when he looked tentative in the ring, but he just doesn't look tentative anymore. It doesn't matter if Joshua loses 3 more fights and wins 3 more fights. He is what he is. He's a destructive fighter, and that's what I think they'll plan on doing. He's got fast hand speed. Dubois has proven not difficult to hit, and I think they'll exploit that on the night. I'm really looking forward to the card. Joshua Buatsi obviously was...
talk to us about that.
Wound up by Willie Hutchinson, who's got that ability. Yeah, it's a great fight. I still favour Joshua Buatsi in that fight. I think Hutchinson will get the best out of him. I think we are on for a Brahma in that contest. I really do. It's a great card. Josh Kelly and Liam Smith at middle. Smith. Yeah, I like that. The fact is that middleweight creates a lot of jeopardy. Hamza Shiraz and Tyler Denny. I'm so pleased for Tyler Denny getting his opportunity. Look what boxing can do. Look at the opportunities it can afford him. He was struggling to pay for training camps in the past, having to work his plumbing job going into fights. This will change his life. And he's done a job of changing his life. So, Anthony Kakachi on there against Josh Warrington. I think that'll be exciting as long as it lasts. But Kakachi looks really strong at the moment. Glad for Warrington he's moving up to super feather. But I do think Kakache is the man in that one again. I think that'll be a stoppage. It's going to be a really exciting night.
That card, I mean, Gareth, you can look at this 5 year period. Getting cards like this almost seemed like a dream. It was just something that was unheard of. You know,
Mm.
you'd have the main event, and I mean this in not a disrespectful way, but sometimes the fights that were lower down on the card didn't really get your juices flowing. But we get, you know, we've got Los Angeles in a bit with Riyadh season. You know, we've got Wembley coming after that. And then obviously October the 12th, the full card yet to be announced, the alleged match between Beterbiev and Bivol. These cards, they really make you want to just get up and watch the sport.
When there's a big card we're talking, I suppose, in August, September, October,
Yeah,
December, all mega cards, really. I mean, we
mega
can't call
cards.
it,
Yeah,
yeah. Again, you go back to the shift in boxing, the amazing investment from the Saudi Arabians. Go back, this wasn't happening a year ago. Right, a year ago now, we were talking about the Battle of the Baddest about to happen.
Battle of
Frank
the
Warren
Baddest. Yeah,
talking about a game changer. And as he's admitted to me, and I'm sure to you and many others since, he didn't realise how big a game changer it was going to be. So no, it's fantastic at the moment for the sport. It's a fantastic time. It really is. There's so many great things going on. Like you say, when it's peppered by these huge events, it just gives the opportunity for everyone else. The DAZN cards, the Queensbury cards, the Boxer cards, just lets them see where we are headed, where the pinnacle is at the moment. We probably haven't got that long with Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk left. Anthony Joshua's probably got a couple of fights more than both of those guys. And then it's going to be a new generation coming up in the heavyweight division. Jared Anderson, Moses Talma. I know we've got a fight coming up in the heavyweight division between Derek Chisora and Joe Joyce pretty soon. It's really good at the moment, and I think in America it's pivotal. They get those 7 princes fighting each other regularly. The Keyshawn Davis, Tank Davis, Shaka Stevenson,
cool.
Tio, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, and who else have I left out of that? Lomachenko. Yeah, I think I've left someone out. But I call them 7 princes now. I've told you this before. It's an oft-used fact that I brought up from 1980 to 89. The 4 kings, Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, and Duran, fought each other 9 times. You think how many times those 7 could fight each other?
Imagine.
That probably 12. Obviously, Garcia's out for a year now, which is a great shame. Haney's taking a year off. But all those guys need to be fighting each other. The Shaka Stevensons and the Tank Davises, Vasyl Lomachenko, Keyshawn Davis, maybe William Zepeda now as well. Put him in the mix. So it's a very exciting time. And I think August the 3rd, the Crawford-Israel Madrimov card will just ignite something in America within the media that'll stimulate something happening there. Through the Saudi investment as well. So it's good. It's all good. Really good time at the moment.
A matchup that I'd definitely like to see in the future, you've mentioned both of them, and hopefully it happens within the next couple of years, is Jared Anderson and our Brit, Moses Atuma. I'd really like to see them paired together. I do favour Moses. I'm interested to see how Anderson gets on with the Bacoli. As long as the Bacoli that fought Tony Yoka is a danger. I just want to see if we're going to get that kind of performance again from Bacoli, or is this Jared Anderson's time to really put his foot down and make his mark on the heavyweight division? What do you think of that?
Well, I think Bacoli's it's a very good test for Jared Anderson. If he's not at his very best, then Bacoli will put pressure on him. But I do think he will be at his best, and I think he'll come through it and he'll show how good he is.
Okay.
Moses Talma's still a long way behind the likes of Jared Anderson. We haven't seen Moses under pressure, and
He's
still very.
isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I do jokingly, not jokingly, but I do call him the takeover. There's so much. He's got so much already at the age of 19. It's incredible. October Red. You know, he is a phenomenon already. There's no question about it. In fact, he was sparring with Joe Joyce when he was 15 years old. The fact that
Bloody hell, 15.
15, yeah, he can handle himself so well. He's already very mature. He's already growing into the role. They won't want to rush him too much. But Jared Anderson's probably the problem they're going to have with him is if he progresses really quickly and he starts to win things and win belts, it's holding him back, because he really does need to get 15, 20 fights under his belt before he's up at that highest level, because there's no coming back from that. And he's still learning. At the moment, he's knocking guys around, knocking guys out who aren't at his level. He's got an invincibility about him, a hand speed, left-handed as well, and he's going in there, and it's just a joy to see him doing his work. But they've got to bring him through very carefully, and Frank Warren knows that. He's brilliant at building fighters in that way.
Yeah, he's going up against Marius Wack, not obviously next week on the Joyce Chisora undercard. I'm going to finish off, Gareth, and it's going to finish off in true tradition. You mentioned the end of the year, the rematch with Alexander Usyk and obviously Tyson Fury. Obviously, it's not undisputed anymore as the belt has been handed over to Daniel Dubois. The get up from both fighters, will they just see this as a rematch as it is, because now obviously the undisputed label has left the room?
I think you've got to see Usyk as the favourite going into this, given what he produced last time out. I like Tyson Fury's talk of believing he won the fight. I don't necessarily agree with everything he was saying, but I like his attitude towards it, that this is a fight he knows he can win, he believes he can win, he has to feel like that. What I don't agree with was, and this is just the way he's analysing Usyk, is that Usyk's just an amateur boxer, style boxer, and he got outboxed by Usyk in the last third of that fight. Usyk has shown over and over again that he's got this ability to change the pattern of the fight, and I think changing the pattern of the fight is key to the victory. It was a very close fight. I mean, I'm sure we've spoken about it already. I had Usyk 114-113 winner. It was a very close fight, but was stolen by Usyk in those rounds 8 and 9, and then he continued his work on. Fury can beat Usyk. It was a tremendous fight, befitting of an undisputed title.
Oh yeah,
and the winner,
100%.
yeah, and the winner will get to fight for the undisputed title against the winner of Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois. So, and everybody's hoping we're finally going to get Anthony Joshua against Fury. I hope that fight happens. We all do, because it'd be a travesty for Anthony Joshua if he ends the era not fighting Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury.
Tyson Fury's what do you think he's going to do this time about his corner?
He'll be more aggressive. He'll be more aggressive from the start. He needs to be more aggressive, and that's the way he can win the fight. He's just got to be more aggressive. It's going to be a more risky. I think we're still for 12 hard rounds. And as I say, very close the first time. I think it'll be very close the second time. There's very little between them. And I just think that Fury, there's all this talk about there was too much advice in the corner, too much going on in the corner, too many people giving him too many different pieces of advice. And I think this time around,
I agree.
He will be aggressive, and he'll look to hurt Usyk and look to get ahead.
I think, yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? At the end of the day, because it's family and it's business, but you do need those clear instructions in the corner, and who knows, we may have had a different outcome. But it's definitely a fight I'm looking forward to watching again. Like you said, it was so befitting for an undisputed title. We were, screaming up and down out of the chair. It was a beautiful fight, and that is what we love so much in boxing. And the fact that these fights are getting made. Excuse me. I just want to shout out to the chat. We've got Crawford Canelo. We kind of like covered that. Excuse me, a little bit in the beginning. I've got to let Gareth go because he's got 30 minutes and we're on 30 minutes now. So I just want to say a massive respect to the chat. Gareth and I will definitely be linking up again. This is sort of like a catch up because we haven't spoken for a month. Obviously,
Yeah.
him trying to, jump off bicycles in the road and and writing books. He's been a bit busy. But as per usual, we actually appreciate you here, Gareth. You're the one that comes on the lives, not afraid to what comes up in the chat. I've got to tip my cap to you and give you that ultimate respect because you're just putting it out there.
Thank you, October Red. Well, there's hardly been any comments this morning, unusually. We need to build up the viewers again.
Yeah, well, you've got to stop disappearing and jumping off your bike.
Exactly. It's been a pleasure.
Guys, always. Guys, take it easy. We'll catch up soon. And as we say at October Red, stay ready.